Imagine waking up one morning, groggily rubbing your eyes, and getting out of bed as you do every day. You stretch, grab your coffee, and step outside into the world that feels off. At first, it's subtle. The wind blows a little differently. The ground under your feet feels strangely unfamiliar. But then, as you look up at the sky, you notice something that stops you in your tracks. The clouds are moving differently, not like they should. And that's when it hits you that something is wrong. The laws of physics, the very rules that govern everything around you, are no longer working the way they should. And you feel the weight of your own body, but it's lighter than before. The ground, which used to pull you down with a predictable force, no longer does. Instead of feeling anchored, you're aware that the force of gravity is fluctuating. It might pull you downward suddenly with a jolt, or it might let you float freely for a moment before bringing you crashing back to the ground. Every step feels unstable. You look around and the world is starting to bend in strange ways. Trees sway unnaturally, water moves in erratic waves, and objects seem to defy the logic you've always known. Gravity, the force that binds everything to the earth, has gone haywire. Sometimes it becomes so strong that it pulls everything down with incredible force, crushing buildings, objects, and even people. Other times, gravity seems to disappear entirely, and you find yourself floating upward, helpless to control your ascent. The atmosphere itself might begin to thin or shift in density, making it harder to breathe or causing you to feel weightless. The ocean's dull bodies of water that have always been stable could begin to move in unpredictable patterns, flowing upward or shifting entirely, causing tidal waves or evaporating into the sky. The very concept of down becomes subjective. The Earth's surface may no longer be a solid foundation to stand on, and every day could feel like you're walking on a tightrope, stretched between chaos and disaster. And yet, gravity isn't the only force that has changed. The speed of light, once considered a constant, now behaves erratically. At first, this might not be noticeable, but the effects quickly become obvious. You shine a flashlight into the darkness, and instead of a straight beam of light, it bends unpredictably, flickers, or even splits into multiple paths. The light from distant stars might not reach you the way it used to. Some stars might appear to flicker and vanish, while others seem to glow far too brightly, distorting your perception of distance and time. What if the speed of light could suddenly become faster or slower depending on where you are? Communication would become nearly impossible, as signals would arrive at random intervals, either way too fast to process or way too delayed to be useful. Your phone, once a reliable tool for connection, could become an unreliable mess, with texts arriving in reverse order or disappearing entirely. What about sight itself? If light can travel in random directions, your perception of the world could be distorted. The familiar landscape could suddenly appear as a chaotic blur, with objects you thought you recognized now warped and unrecognizable, as light behaves unpredictably. But these disturbances go beyond the everyday. Space-time, the very fabric of reality itself, could begin to warp in unimaginable ways. Planets might stop orbiting their stars in predictable paths, and entire galaxies could drift aimlessly through the cosmos. The concept of up and down no longer makes sense, as space itself bends and stretches. Gravity might work in one area, but disappear in another, creating pockets where entire cities could float in mid-air, while others are crushed under the overwhelming force of gravity. Time itself might lose its consistency. You could find yourself caught in a bizarre time loop, reliving the same moments over and over, or experiencing time moving backward, watching the world unmake itself. The past could bleed into the present, creating moments of overlap where historical events might happen again in real time, making you question what is real and what is a memory. Or perhaps, time could stretch endlessly in one place, creating areas where time slows to a crawl, where moments last for what feels like an eternity, while elsewhere time might fly by in a flash, and you age rapidly, watching your body deteriorate without any control over the process. The laws of motion, The principles that govern how things move would no longer follow predictable rules. In a world where motion is erratic, cars and airplanes would no longer be able to drive or fly safely. The engines that once obeyed the laws of thrust and propulsion might suddenly go in reverse or malfunction unpredictably. Planes could veer off course, or vehicles could accelerate uncontrollably in random directions. Imagine trying to cross a street, only for every step you take to send you spiraling in the opposite direction. How would you even move, let alone travel? Would you be able to walk when the very laws that govern your movement are in constant flux? Would you even be able to stay still? Or would everything around you be in a state of perpetual motion? The chaotic change in the laws of physics would have a profound impact on life itself. Every living organism, from the smallest bacteria to the largest animals, depends on the predictable forces of the universe. But in a world where those forces are constantly changing, how could life survive? Our bodies, which rely on the consistency of physical laws to maintain equilibrium, might begin to malfunction. Cells that divide according to certain principles might start to mutate erratically, leading to unexplainable changes in our physiology. You might find yourself developing strange features, like additional limbs, or your body might suddenly age or shrink in unpredictable bursts. Genetic material could no longer function in the ways we understand. Reproduction might become impossible, as the forces required to create new life would no longer operate as expected. Could evolution still occur in such a world? Or would biological life be unable to adapt quickly enough to survive in a universe where the fundamental laws of nature no longer apply? With all these changes, could humanity even adapt? Could we find a way to cope with this new world? Or would we simply cease to exist as we are? Perhaps, in the face of such chaos, we would be forced to evolve. But evolution takes time. And, in a world where time itself is no longer reliable, would it be possible to adapt in time to survive? Maybe new technologies could help stabilize the environment. Chaotic magic devices that help regulate gravity, control the flow of time, or even manipulate the forces of motion. But who could control such technologies? And would they be enough to save us from a universe gone wild? In this new world, survival might depend on our ability to bend with the changes, to find ways to navigate through a reality where nothing is fixed, nothing is certain. Humanity might need to become something entirely different. Perhaps a new form of intelligence or biological structure that can withstand the constant fluctuations of the universe. Or perhaps we would perish, our bodies and minds overwhelmed by the chaos of a universe without rules. In the end, what would happen if the laws of physics suddenly changed? The world we know, with its predictable forces and stable reality, would no longer exist. The very foundation of the universe would be shattered. And what emerges from that chaos might be something utterly unrecognizable. A new world, a new reality, one where the laws of physics are completely different from the ones we've relied on for eons. Would it be a world of infinite possibilities, or a place too strange and hostile for life to survive? The only certainty in such a world would be that nothing would ever be the same again.